Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and ghouls, to the most frightening, horrifying, bone-chillingly terrifying experience of your lives. Welcome to the Jum Jum 2017 Halloween Spooktacular! Sponsored by Loot Crate, Audible, Crunchyroll, Blue Apron, Doritos, Mountain Dew, McDonald's, EA, Nike, Kellogg's, IKEA, Starbucks, Amazon, send help! That's right folks, the autumn breeze is blowing through the trees, crisp orange leaves cover the damp streets, and the supermarket by my house is blaring Christmas music non-stop, which must mean that it's Halloween. And that means that it's time for another Halloween video. Last year I talked about the difference between horror games and action games with horror elements, which was about as interesting as it sounds. But this year I decided to round up a few of my YouTube chums to talk about their favorite spooky games with me, which is great because it means that if the video is bad, I only get like half of the blame. So I ask you to sit back, relax, get comfortable, but not too comfortable, because I might scare you, and enjoy some dudes talking about their favorite scary games, starting with ya boy, which is me. Personally, the scary game I've always loved the most is Lone Survivor, a legitimately creepy experience with a very interesting story and a ton of atmosphere. I think the reason I admire this game so much is because it achieves so much with so little, like it's almost a middle finger to the AAA horror industry. I mean, you got these huge publishers and developers going on and on about super realistic environments and animations and sinking hundreds of thousands of dollars into their horror games trying to make them as scary as possible. And then along comes Jasper Bryan saying, hey, I'm just gonna go ahead and make something 10 times scarier than anything you've done using nothing but some dark corridors, some sinister sound design, and some pixel art that I found behind an abandoned KFC. It's honestly really impressive how much he managed to accomplish, especially considering the very low-key look and feel of the game. It's a perfect example of just how far imagination and passion can take you. Plus, I made a review on it back in 2016, and even though it was a terrible video, Jasper Bryan himself said that it was great, so take that, society!
Some say the best horror games are when you feel completely powerless, where the threat facing you is clearly at an advantage, and it seems hopeless to even try combating it. I believe that's true, somewhat, but at the same time, it's nice to have quite the opposite. Resident Evil 4 does not put you in a powerless position. Leon Kennedy is a character fully equipped for the situation you're thrusted into at the start of Capcom's 2005 action horror. Given the right tools, he can overpower any of the horrors that the game throws at him, no matter how threatening or frightening the game chooses to make it. Even though you're put in this powerful position, the game doesn't lose its scare factor. It still has its fair share of chilling and genuinely scary sections, but what I've always appreciated is that instead of encouraging you to feel like you have no hope of overcoming the threats and letting them torment you, instead it puts you in a position where you are someone who has to face these fears head on and defeat them directly, taking you on a huge survival journey in the process. It's a game that makes me feel like I can overcome any odds, yet still at its core is a horror experience. And then you remember all the ridiculous shit the game does during the story, and you sort of just forget that it's even supposed to be a scary game. Still the best game ever though, remember the chainsaw and the jet ski and oh look at his hair.
I usually don't play horror games, so I more play, if the story's a little more spooky. I definitely recommend Oxenfree. It's widely looked over and really sad because it's such a good game. A lot of what you're doing is characters interacting with each other and you start growing attached to the cast, but it's about a bunch of teens that go to an island to party. The island is pretty much like abandoned, so it's just them. And then the main character, Alex, goes into a cave, starts messing with her radio, and then summons some supernatural beings, and you start kind of learning the mysteries of this island and the murders, and the characters get possessed. And it reminds me of like something around the vein of Stranger Things or the new It movie. Just mine's kind of like the jump scares. It's definitely more of a spooky tale, but it's really well done and widely looked over. Plus the teens actually act their own age and not like some adults are trying to write teens looking at you, Life is Strange. So go pick up Oxenfree. It's a great tale for the season.
And the winner for Best Horror Game goes to Bendy and the Ink Machine. No, seriously, Bendy and the Ink Machine is easily the little gem of indie horror. and one of my favorite horror games. Admittedly, I haven't been a huge fan of horror games until recently, aside from the horrible dialogue in Resident Evil. That's my jam! But Bendy succeeded in pulling me out of the closet and into the creepy hallway. It really makes you uneasy at the best of times, without using too many jump scares, which I feel like are overdone in most games. Looking at you, Outlast. Bendy's story is its main draw, and it really makes the game a must play. And the puzzles ain't half bad neither. But the downside is it's short. Each chapter can be finished in about 20 to 30 minutes, but it's a really charmingly creepy game.
I have always been a giant pussy when it comes to horror games, and Allison Road is one of the reasons why I still am to this day. The dessert that is a spiritual successor to PT, the cancelled Silent Hills game, had you waking up in your townhouse clueless and with a splitting headache, and your only goal was to find some aspirin. You don't know anything about the background of the situation, you don't know whose house it is, you don't know if you're in your own house, if you're around nobody. That is pretty much the storyline right there. You walk down to the kitchen, you take the pills, and then go back to sleep, and then the trailer ends. Just kidding. Everything goes to shit. You end up encountering the ghost of a lady that appears to be your wife. Even though the gameplay wasn't that special, the graphics and the atmosphere of the situation and overall the sound design can build up the perfect amount of suspense to get you in the right situations. This teaser showed me that this game had the potential to live up to the hype that PT left behind after it got cancelled, until the development of this game got cancelled as well. But good news, after some time the game went back to development and it was confirmed to come out sometime in the future, still no release date yet. So when it does finally come out, I'll be ready to not play it and watch other YouTubers play it for me.
Well, that certainly was a thing. I mean, you had a video game reviewer, kind of a video game reviewer, a guy who talks about video games occasionally, a video game streamer. I don't know what the fuck Akio is. He scares me. But seriously, huge thanks to everyone who participated and pretty much did most of my work for me. Do yourselves a favor and check all of them out. Their channels are in the description and in my heart. It's very painful. So, ladies and gentlemen, it seems you have many spooky treats you could be playing this Hallows Eve, unless you've already played them all, in which case you must have very good taste and quite a lot of free time. But regardless, I wish you all a Halloween that you'll never forget, with experiences you'd never expect, and a night you hopefully won't regret. Baguette.